Steve Johnson was chilling outside his wife's office at 7 p.m. cause that was the day he decided to put an end to the joke they called a marriage. Some dudes don't catch on to the signs, but Steve noticed when his wife started working late, dressing sharper, and going out with the girls more. The sex dwindled, but Steve wasn't blind to it. He figured this had been going on for about 2 months when he first clocked that Angela was rocking red high heels to work, and she never liked wearing heels before. Sometimes she'd put up with wearing them at fancy events or when she wanted to spice things up in the bedroom. Like, she'd bust out the red heels and white stockings with a cute lace bra and thong panties. Steve was all about those white thigh-high stockings and heels. He thought they made their love life top-notch. But she never wore heels to work, and one day Steve asked her about it. "Why the heels today, babe?" "Big plans." She paused, kept walking, and replied without even looking back. "Today I'm meeting with my boss and I just want to dress all professional." He didn't say anything, but I was thinking maybe dress like a professional street hustler or something, but I kept my mouth shut. Over time, it started with just an hour here and there, but then it turned into 2 or 3 hours several days a week. Once the bachelorette party season kicked off, he finally realized what was really going on. She couldn't stand clubs, salons, or bars. Her idea of a good time was just dinner or coffee. She didn't touch a drop of alcohol and looked down on those who did. He ended up following her to her third bachelorette party, and she just went on. So, there's this house in Glen Ellen that Steve knew pretty well because he'd been there for a few parties. Turns out, it belonged to his boss, Martin Schindler. Steve waited around for an hour, thinking this was all part of her plan and not just a quick pit stop. Finally, he decided to let the air out of all 4 of her tires before heading home. When she got back that night, she didn't say anything about the tires, but he overheard her telling their daughter Jenny, "Can you believe someone let the air out of my tires last night?" Jenny was like, "No way, for real," and she was just relieved they didn't slash them. "Man, I just let some air out and used that air pump thing your dad makes me keep in the trunk." "Where have you been?" "I was just at a dance club with my friends." "You should probably avoid that in the future." Angela grinned and said, "Sure, baby." Steve met with a lawyer and started the divorce process. That's why he was sitting in the car not far from her office. She was supposed to be served that same evening. He was sad about his 21 years of marriage, but overall they had been good. They had a 17-year-old daughter, Jenny, she was his favorite and a daddy's girl. He met Angela when he needed a lawyer for a contract issue with his boss. She was just a receptionist back then, wanting to be a paralegal. He thought she was amazing and asked her out. They dated for 2 years before he popped the question, and he thought they were happy all the way through their marriage, until she started working for Martin Schindler. He was a truck driver with long hours, but they tried to spend as much time together as they could. The whole family went on trips, following Jenny's schedule. She was always busy with sports or something else. Sometimes Steve and Angela would go to Galena, Illinois to visit wineries or Lake Geneva, Wisconsin to shop and relax without Jenny. When she was old enough, Angela's betrayal hit him hard. She started to distance herself from him more and more, but he never thought she was cheating until he saw the evidence. After that, everything went downhill. Her attitude was terrible and only getting worse. He remembered the conversation they had the night he followed her. "Hey babe, how about we grab some dinner and catch a movie tonight? I finally have a day off on Friday and I really want to spend some time with you. You know, I usually meet up with girls on Fridays because they rely on me to be their designated driver. Let them fend for themselves for one night. With the long hours you work and the nights you spend with the girls, I hardly ever get to see you. If you had a real job that didn't require you to drive around all day and night, we could hang out more often. But you don't, and I've had to put up with it for 20 years. So deal with it." Later, when she left, she didn't even bother saying goodbye. He was shocked. He followed her to the garage and watched her drive away. He quickly grabbed the keys and rushed after her. Their neighborhood only had one way out, and to get to the exit of their house, you had to navigate through a confusing maze of streets. He managed to catch up with her as she turned onto Main Street and followed her to Martin's house. He avoided her for the rest of the weekend and planned to find a lawyer on Monday. He wasn't going to completely destroy everything. He just wanted their marriage to end peacefully. He felt like she didn't want him anymore. So why hang on to a relationship that's falling apart? He told his daughter about it on Monday. She's cheating on me, pumpkin. You might not have noticed, but I have. She's sleeping with her boss. No way, Daddy, I don't believe it. I followed her to his house. She said she was going out with friends, but that's just a lie. Girl, that ain't true. She went straight to her boss's place, but her tires got messed up at the club. Nah, honey, I did it. I slashed her tires outside her boyfriend's crib when I saw she wasn't heading to the club. I can't believe it. Dad, me neither, but it's true. His daughter was sitting next to him in the car, waiting for the drama to kick off. Are you really sure, Dad? No way, Jenny asked. Nope, everything's done. She broke my trust and ripped out my heart. I can't deal with that kind of betrayal. What if she had a reason, though? To do it, pumpkin, there's no need to make excuses for a long affair. What if she gets drunk and it's just a one-time thing? Maybe if she had been raped, of course it would be different. No, she chose this path. She betrayed my trust. Trust is the most important thing you can have with someone. You can never love someone you can't trust. I could never love someone who betrayed me like that. Our marriage fell apart. Jenny looked out the window and saw two men approaching the car. What an idiot, Angela Johnson said, looking out the window of their law. Man, Martin and his office fling were getting it on in the office, thankful for those tinted windows on one side. Can you believe it? He thought he'd get to me first. There was no lovey-dovey stuff going on, it was straight up animalistic. It took him 6 months to lure Angela in, grooming her to be his new wife after just finalizing a divorce from his ex of 19 years. He was sick of her constant complaining and nagging, her weight gain, and her lack of interest in getting busy. He was just over it all and didn't want to be seen with her anymore. So, this guy was all happy with his wife, but then he saw this other chick Angela who was just as old as his wife but hotter. She had a killer body and was super beautiful. He even upgraded her wardrobe and was planning on making her his boss's wife. But then, out of nowhere, Steve got served with some papers. Turns out there's a restraining order that says he has to stay 100 meters away from Angela, Jennifer, and his twins when they go off to college. Tough break, dude. So, Jenny grabbed the envelope from him at their house and saw it was about their divorce. She found a restraining order and gave it to him. He yelled, "What the hell?" She cried out, "Oh God, no. Daddy, I swear I didn't know," she pleaded. "What are you talking about?" he asked. She gave him the other papers, which detailed accusations of spousal violence, child abuse, and sexual abuse of a minor. "Jenny, why?" he asked. "Dad, I swear I had nothing to do with this. It's a lie or a mistake." "Wait, how did she?" "I'm here because I promised her I'd be. She said it hurt her dad when you told me she was cheating on you. I confronted her about it, and she claimed she only did it because she had some investigators' report saying you cheated on her. Seriously, did you fall for that? Have you even seen the report? You believed her over me. Did you let her trap me? Why would you hurt me like this when I love you so much? I specifically told you not to say anything. I swear, I had no idea about the restraining order, Dad. Man, being treated like crap is the worst. I never said anything like that to anyone," he cried softly, ignoring her. Then, a moment later, he said, "You need to bounce now, Jenny. I can't stand being near you, not even 100 yards away." He said it quietly. "Dad, no," she screamed. "Just go, or I might end up in cuffs. And to top it off, the sheriff is still here watching me." He continued, "Oh my God, they froze all my accounts. Crap, what am I supposed to do now? Congratulations to you both, you've completely wrecked me. I can't even afford to. Damn, I gotta take on her powerful law firm with all these fake claims. I'll be fighting in court forever, oh God. No, I'll sort everything out, Daddy," she said as she got out of the car and headed towards the office building. Martin and Angela finished up and sighed happily. "That was great, darling," she said. "I just wish I had binoculars so I could see his face." Martin was just fixing his belt and Angela was smoothing out her dress when Jenny ran into the office, yelling, "You're a child abuse, sexual violence, what's wrong with you, Jenny?" Angela was like, I should have had the upper hand, I should have made the first move. Now he can't come in the house or touch our money for a while. I've got the advantage now. I don't know if he insulted me, but you guys are tight, Angela said with a smirk. Jenny went up to her and asked, he didn't cheat, did he? Of course not, who needs that? Angela replied with a laugh. You're a beast, Jenny said and then punched her mom in the face with all her strength. Angela fell to the ground in shock and pain. Martin just laughed. Nice shot, Jenny said. She froze, then looked around and saw bookcases, shelves, and a dirty desk. She made a disgusted face, looked at Martin, and swept everything off the table. Then she looked at him and calmly said, You better not mess with me again, idiot. I can and will hurt you. She left, and as she was leaving, Angela screamed, Wait, Jenny. Martin said, That little will pay for this. On her way out, she passed a man holding an envelope who asked, Are you Angela Johnson? She replied, Yes, and rushed away. Angela and Martin were cracking up when they saw Jenny being handed Steve's divorce papers. Jenny was freaking out, trying to convince her dad not to answer the phone in case Angela found out and called the cops on him for breaking the restraining order. Angela had already turned all their friends against him, but his parents and brother still had his back. His sister-in-law was keeping him away from his family. Jenny's niece and nephew almost ruined her marriage to his brother George until he made her confess the truth. George couldn't figure out why Angela hated him so much and why his own daughter betrayed him. Even though she didn't know about the abuse accusations, she still told her mom that he knew about her affair. She even lied and said she wanted to be there for him when Angela served him, but she knew he would be served and said nothing. Jenny tried to find someone to help. Dude, you gotta help her out. She found her mom's divorce papers and saw that the lawyer was from her mom's office, so she couldn't talk to him. She called Grandpa George, who was Steve's dad, hoping he could help. What's up, kiddo? He asked. We gotta help Dad, but I don't know who to ask for help. He's not answering my calls, she said. I can't believe you did this to your dad, Jenny. What were you thinking, helping your mom? Grandpa, it's all a lie. I didn't do anything. Man, my mom and her stupid lawyer are really on my case. Be careful what you say about her, dude. I'm really sorry, Grandpa. I swear I didn't blame you for any of this. I had no clue she would flip out like that when I confronted her. Okay, I'll try to figure something out. Can I talk to Grandpa? Is he around? He can't talk to you until the restraining order is lifted. Every time you call him, he starts crying because he's scared your mom will find out and get him in trouble with the cops. His lawyer said there's a court date coming up. Jenny's court date is set, but we can't do anything until then. She was crying so hard, saying, Grandpa, tell him I love and miss him. If I see him, I'll do it. Then she hung up and cried for a while. When she finally calmed down, she went into her mom's room, grabbed her underwear and new clothes, and chucked them down the stairs. She grabbed a bunch of clothes, took them outside, and threw them on the lawn. She laughed when she saw them there. Oh, some of the clothes were like brand new, still with tags on them. Screw you, Mom, she shouted as she headed to the barn to grab lighter fluid. She poured the whole can on her clothes and lit them with matches. Seeing that her mom would be home soon, Jenny smirked as an idea popped into her head. As Angela pulled into the driveway, she saw Jenny chilling in a lawn chair in the front yard, toasting marshmallows over a burning pile of clothes. Angela screamed and bolted out of there. Yo, the car was like yelling at Jenny, asking her what the hell she was doing. Jenny was like, No, Mom, I'm just out of my mind. I'm trying to make you pay for the fact that my dad can't talk to me every day. If you don't fix this abuse claim soon, I'm gonna keep breaking your stuff. And if you try to touch me, I'll report your abuse to the authorities. Oh, and by the way, your boyfriend asked me to show him my panties. Angela was shocked. Jenny stuttered, Yo, we got a court date on Monday and the restraining order ain't getting renewed. It was just temporary, so chill out, Mom. I gotta talk to him first before things go up in flames. Angela burst in the house yelling, I tried calling Steve but he ignored me and deleted my message. Soon after, a fire truck and cop car pulled up, a neighbor snitched on the fire. A cop and firefighter came up to Jenny, What's the deal, girl? What's all this about with your mom? Jenny wanted to ditch her old clothes, so she told me to burn them. She said to burn her at the stake. I was like, you can't light a fire in the front yard. Then this dude comes up and asks if my mom is home. I'm like, yeah, she's inside. He's like, I'll put it out with a hose. The fireman shows up and asks if she used something to light the fire or just set the clothes on fire. Jenny's like, I used a whole can of lighter fluid. She was so proud of herself. The fireman's like, well, we don't have water, but we have some sand. I'll go get it. While the fireman was dealing with the fire, a cop showed up and rang the doorbell. Angela opened the door, ready to give her daughter a piece of her mind, but then she saw it was the cops. We'll handle the fire, it's no biggie, officer, Angela said before he could say anything. The firefighters are on it. Did you know it's illegal to have a fire like this in your yard? The officer asked. No, I had no idea, Angela replied through gritted teeth. Here's your fine, just pay up. No need to go to court. And next time, just donate your old clothes to Goodwill instead of burning them. There are people who could use them. She used it, then slammed the door. Angela's lawyer showed up in front of Judge J for a restraining order hearing next Monday. He didn't bother trying to renew it because he knew it was a lie. It did what it needed to do, bought some time and messed up Steve's reputation. Steve's lawyer tried to get Angela charged with perjury, but the judge said there wasn't enough evidence to prove the order was filed under false pretenses. So, no perjury. You might be stirring up some drama in your divorce counterclaim, but you know what's up. There's no chance of winning the case. The fact that the restraining order was lifted didn't bring much relief to Steve. He was in a really bad place, struggling with depression as his life crumbled around him. False accusations, frozen assets, his wife's betrayal, and what hurt the most, his daughter's betrayal. He was barely holding it together, skipping work, drinking too much, and feeling miserable. He went to the house in the afternoon when he knew Angela and his daughter wouldn't be there, only to find that she had moved out. He couldn't open the locks, but he managed to open the garage door and it actually worked. He found all his stuff in there, boxes and his clothes in trash bags. He saw that she left behind the wedding album and all the photos of their happy family that used to be all over the house. He stayed in touch with his folks and his brother, but things were tense because of his issues. His parents kept begging him to see a shrink, but he said no. He felt like he didn't need some shrink to tell him his life was a mess and there was no way out. Steve couldn't do anything about it. Angela's law firm went all out on him. They snitched to his boss about the restraining order and abuse claims, and Steve got canned because of it. His contract had some moral clause that got him in trouble. If he was thinking straight, he could have fought back and probably come out on top. But at that moment, he was helpless. No one knew where Steve was staying, he only talked to his family over the phone. The only time anyone saw him was in court when he had to be there. So, Steve showed up to his divorce hearing looking like a zombie, only talking to his lawyer and the judge. Jenny tried to chat with him and cried every time he ignored her. She thought he was a total mess. Angela, on the other hand, was loving the drama. She started hating Steve long before Martin convinced her to turn against him. As she tried to seduce Martin, she almost started to despise Steve. After months of fighting in court, the divorce was finally official. Steve got his fair share of the money and assets back, all thanks to his lawyer. He sold the house and kept his truck. He couldn't get a job because of rumors in town that he was hurting his daughter. No one cared that he wasn't accused of anything. He decided to move to Chicago, where he found work as a truck driver. He loaded all his stuff in the back of his pickup and was saying bye to his parents when Jenny showed up. "Dad, I'm really sorry. None of this should have happened," she said, running up to hug him. He cried and didn't hug her back. "Bro, you picked your mom over me for no reason, just 'cause you ran to her first." The whole situation went downhill from there. "I had to act fast and file first at the law firm where she works, had to catch her off guard. Now you see why I did what I did. I swear I didn't know. I'm sorry, but I gotta go now. This false accusation of being a child molester is sticking to me like glue. Once you're accused of something like that, it's a stain that just won't come off. One day your mom and her new man will see the truth. I'll make you pay for this. Goodbye, Jennifer. I loved you more than anything, did everything I could to give you a good life. I just hope you don't turn out like your mother." She started crying as her grandma hugged her, giving him the chance to sneak into his truck and drive off. "Angela, will you marry me?" he asked on the day the divorce was finalized. "Yes, Martin," she said as she started crying and jumped up to hug him, causing a scene in the restaurant. "Let's go to your place and celebrate," she said as he paid the bill. She loved his big house. She was so excited to finally move in and renovate the place once she got rid of all the ugly furniture and curtains that his ex-wife picked out. They both agreed that getting a new bedroom set should be the first priority. Martin chuckled when they left and he spotted his ex-wife dining with her parents. Carol, his ex, was not happy to see him with his new girlfriend and she even spat at him as they walked by, but he didn't even acknowledge it. Steve entered the truck warehouse and spotted his coworker Lou waiting inside. "Hey Steve, what's up man? You look like someone spit in your cereal. Divorce finalized today, huh? Well, after what that asshole did to you, you should go out and have some fun. It's not even about her, it's my daughter. She took that bitch side and I just can't handle it. She keeps calling and emailing me, but I can't bring myself to talk to her. Maybe I should see a therapist. Maybe you should blow off some steam," a voice said from behind them. "Hello Mariana," Lou said. "That's not a bad idea," Steve replied. Who needs my dried-out old self anyway?" Steve was like, "Marian just whispered in my ear and licked it, then walked away." The guys were all checking out her ass as she left. "Go for it, Steve, she's amazing." And Steve was all, "Why not? She's my girl now. Let's get out of here." On their first date, Steve took Marian to dinner and a movie. After that, they went to Baker Square for some coffee and cake. Marian was telling Steve to keep his head up, saying he's a good guy just going through a rough patch. "Hey, don't worry, everything will work out in the end," Marianne said. "I couldn't figure out what I did wrong for the longest time. I didn't get why she was coming at me so hard during the divorce. It was awful, but it's done now," she said, grabbing his hand. "Let's focus on the future, not the past. I'll make it worth your while." He smiled and squeezed her hand. "Let's get out of here, shall we?" Marianne pulled Steve in for a kiss as she opened the front door. "Do you want to see my bedroom?" "I wish I could," he said, taking her hand. He took him to a bedroom where the moonlight was shining through the window, giving the room a calming blue hue. They kissed passionately, undressing each other slowly. It wasn't anything wild, just two people enjoying the moment. She laid on the bed while he knelt on the floor. "Her loss is my gain, and I'm going to make the most of it." He kissed her and said, "Anytime, darling, anytime." A week or so later, a man dressed in all black sneaked up to the back door of a fancy house. "Yo, so I was in this part of town, ready to break in. I smiled when I saw the door was unlocked. I slowly crept through the house, trying not to make the floorboards creak. Finally, I found the room I was looking for. It was all set up perfectly for what I needed, and I knew it because I saw a photo on Facebook of my target sitting at the desk. This arrogant dude had the photo as his screensaver. The closet was behind and to the right of the desk, and the room was pretty dark, with only a desk lamp for light. The closet door was closed, but he could still see the room pretty well as he opened the door behind the counter and waited. The only thing that worried him was when the target headed towards the closet before sitting at the table. It would make things more complicated, but he knew the job would still get done and his perfect alibi would keep him safe. Martin Schindler walked into his home office and checked out the computer monitor on his desk. His back was facing the cabinet behind him. The unexpected guest slowly opened the closet door and, as Martin was quietly leaving, he suddenly heard a noise and glanced up to see a gun pointed at his head. The trigger was pulled, the gun was placed in his hand, and a note was left on the table before the shooter quickly made their exit. The note simply read, "Door price paid in full." When Angela got back from the store and entered Martin's office to show him the new bedding she purchased, she was shocked to find his lifeless body in the chair. She immediately grabbed her phone, called 911, and reported the shooting. She walked in and saw a gun in his hand and a note on the table. She didn't touch it, but she read what it said and got a message, "No, Steve, no." She screamed, "What have you done?" Detective Devontae Jordan got a call and headed to the Schindler's house. When he got there, he saw a woman crying in the living room and crime scene investigators going in and out of the office. He took it all in, noticing the new set of golf clubs in the corner. Nice clubs, he thought, and kept looking. He checked out the body and saw the gun still in the victim's hand. He asked one of the cops who got there first, "What do we got so far?" The guy clearly shot himself in the head. The victim is Martin Schindler, a lawyer. The homeowner is Angela Johnson, the bride who found the body and called 911. Is there a note? Yes, it's typed on a computer and not signed, just one sentence. He handed him a plastic bag with the note. Detective Jordan frowned and asked, "Is the bride the blonde?" "Yes, sir." "Do you have any?" Detective Jordan asked Angela if she had any clue what the note meant. Angela replied, "Yes, that means it wasn't suicide. My ex-husband killed him. Martin hated guns and didn't own one like that." "Why do you think your ex did this?" Angela explained, "Because he felt Martin took me away from him." Detective Jordan asked, "Did he really know? Did you date the deceased while you were married?" Angela, feeling embarrassed, admitted, "Yes." Detective Jordan then inquired, "Was there anyone else who might have wanted him dead?" "He was a lawyer, right?" Angela replied, "I think his ex-wife was very angry about being left. He practiced law." "Hey there, so I work with business law clients who never really deal with court stuff. So, where were you tonight? You don't think I'm guilty, do you?" "I'm not even sure if it was suicide." "Can I see your receipts for what you bought?" "Sure thing, detective." So, on a nice Sunday afternoon, Detective Jordan went to see Steve Johnson. "Hey, Mr. Johnson, I'm Detective Jordan. I need to ask you some stuff, if that's cool." "How are you? Where were you last night around 8 o'clock?" "I was working, driving a big truck through Rockford. I got to the station at 9:30, you can check the records." "Where were you coming from?" "Madison." "What happened?" "Martin Schindler was shot dead last night. They are saying it was a suicide, but it's not clear. Let's just say there are some things that don't add up." "Okay, well, I couldn't finish the trip from Rockford." "No, sir." "If I have any more questions, can I give you a call?" "Sure, here's my new cell number." The detective left, not too happy about having to drive to the scene. "So I was all the way up in the northwest side of Chicago chatting with Steve, and then I had to haul us across town to the carpool to scope out the alibi. As I was driving, I couldn't shake this nagging feeling about the suicide case. Why would a southpaw shoot himself with his right hand? And why bother typing out a suicide note? And why were there only a few gunshot marks on his hand? It was weird." The detective even said the victim fired the gun, but something just didn't add up. After the detective left, Steve and I were chilling at his kitchen table when Lou asked, "What's all this mean, Steve?" Steve just chuckled and said, "You wouldn't believe it. Can you believe my ex-fiancé actually killed himself?" "No way." "Yeah, I hope my excuse holds up." They laughed and clinked beer bottles in a toast. Angela sat in the front row at the funeral, mourning the guy who easily left her amazing husband. She cried for the man who convinced her to cheat on her husband and kill a good guy just so she could change. She was head over heels for her truck driver husband until she started working for Martin. Martin singled her out and started wearing her down with his comments. Truck drivers were talking smack about him while he was away on a trip. It was a piece of cake for Martin to sow doubt in her mind while she was busy with Steve being gone for long days and nights on the road. And that doubt grew, making her unsure if she was crying over losing her fiancé or losing her husband and the falling apart of her relationship with her daughter. It all felt like a huge waste of time to her. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't hear or care about anything going on around her. It was like the room could be buzzing with activity and she wouldn't even notice. Martin's ex-wife and daughters were giving her dirty looks, blaming her for his death. "You could come to the funeral and pay your respects," Angela said to her daughter who was home from college for the weekend. Jenny stared at her and said, "How do you tell me to respect the man who ruined my father? Screw you, I shouldn't even call that jerk a man." She slammed the door and drove back to college in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Jordan was just chilling in a meeting with his boss, talking about how there hasn't been much movement in the case. All the suspects' alibis have been checked, and it looks like Steve Johnson's truck tracker showed he didn't make any stops on his drive from Madison to Chicago. The timing all lines up too. The warehouse team confirmed he was the driver. Angela Johnson's receipts and the surveillance cameras put her at Macy's, Victoria's Secret, and Starbucks. The medical examiner's report also puts her at the scene of her death. And then there's Schindler's ex-wife and her daughters had dinner with her parents, brother, and sister-in-law in honor of her birthday, said Jordan. Was it your ex's birthday? The commander asked. No, they were just celebrating it. Heck, I even checked on Johnson's daughter, and she was at college over 3 hours away in Wisconsin. There's no chance that it was suicide, the commander asked. It's possible, it just seems to me that it's not true. Well, with no suspects, no motive, and no concrete evidence that it was even a murder, let's close it as a. Damn, Jordan nodded and stormed out of the room, pissed off. 6 months later, Angela invited Jason Davis over for dinner. It was their third date, and Angela managed to get him into bed after a steamy night. Jason went home, cracked open a beer before hitting the hay, and sat down to check his email. As he sat at the kitchen table, someone pointed a gun at his head and pulled the trigger. They placed the gun in his hand and left a note saying the price has been paid in full. Detective Jordan entered the apartment and made his way into the kitchen. Before he could say anything, he was given a suicide note. Well, damn. Looks like I was right about something else. Now I just need to figure out who the hell did this. Did he leave any fingerprints, Mark? He asked the technician. Yes, but if I had to guess right now, I'd say that they are the victims. Are there any witnesses who called the cops? Jordan asked. A neighbor heard the shot and called 911. No one saw anyone come in or out, of course. How did they even get in here? No broken locks or windows. It looks like a balcony to me. The sliding door wasn't locked. The victim probably wasn't. I've been stressing about this since he was on the second floor, but honestly, it wouldn't be too hard to climb up. I think anyone of average height could jump and reach the bottom, then pull themselves up. Average height for a guy or a girl, like an average dude or a tall chick. Where's this guy's number? Jordan asked, rummaging through his gloves to find the last call on his phone. Just needed to see if the last call was to Angela. I'll be surprised if it's not Angela Johnson. After the usual condolences and small talk, Detective Jordan got down to business. Miss Johnson, why do all your boyfriends seem to want to kill themselves? He asked. It must be Steve, he's the one trying to punish me. Where were you last night? I was at home all night. I have an alarm system that can prove it. Tell me about this alarm system. When it's on, it detects if any doors or windows are opened. I turned it on when Jason left last night, and I turned it off this morning when you arrived, she said through tears. Did you turn it off at any point last night? No, Jenny is away at college, so it was on all night. It's... Okay, so you think your husband is behind these suicides, right? Who else could it be? When did you last speak to him before the divorce? Did you see him following you or contacting you? No. Then how would he know about your last lover? I don't know, but it has to be him. All right, that's all I've got for now. Stay close, he said as he turned to leave. Oh, one more thing, how tall are you? Around 5 feet 9 inches or 5 feet 10 inches. Why do you need to know that? Just curious. Again, I'm sorry for your loss. Did the boss ask for the same report when Jordan came back to the station? Yes, sir, Detective Jordan said. Keep me updated daily on what you find. This is too fishy. The woman's alibi seems solid. I'll try to poke holes in it, but we'll see. I'm gonna go talk to her ex-husband next, the detective said carefully. Let me know what you find. As Detective Jordan left, he had a bad feeling that all the main suspects' alibis would be just as airtight as Steve and Marion's last time they were caught cozying up. I was just chilling on the couch watching Jack Ryan on Prime when the doorbell rang. Detective Jordan showed up and Steve asked him to come in. Sir, where were you last night at 1:30 a.m.? I was on my way back from Detroit and arrived at 2:30. What's going on this time? Do you know Jason Davis? I don't think so. Well, he met with your ex-wife and it looks like he shot himself last night. No way, really? Yep, seems like it. Maybe she's a serial killer, a black widow or something. Well, thank you. I'll let you know if I need anything. Or else I'll hit you up. Steve chuckled as he shut the door. What was all that, baby? Asked Marianne. It looks like another one of my ex-wife's boyfriends kicked the bucket. Oh God, she gasped, putting her hand over her mouth. Yeah, thank God I have an alibi. I just hope whoever keeps offing pics times when I'm out on the road. Steve's phone rang, but he saw it was Jenny, so he ignored it. Marianne frowned and said, will she ever get a chance? I don't get why I need this. She misses you, she turned to. Me and him had a chat about it. He got all worked up, but she was like, chill out, babe, and pulled him back down. She said she ain't gonna get in the middle of it, it's his call and he's gotta deal with it. She's still friends with you on Facebook, saw me tag you at that sushi joint we went to last month. She keeps up with your posts just like you do with hers. She messaged me right away to check on you and say she's glad you found someone who makes you happy. She said she's never gonna stop trying to. Yo, so she hits me up like once a week just to shoot the breeze. She's all curious about where you've been and where you're headed. She was tripping out on the fact that I used to plan your runs and keep your schedule in check. She's all like, I know I can count on you to be home when I need you, which she thinks is gonna make our relationship solid. Unlike your exes, she's always asking me about the cities I've been to. We'd chat for hours about all the places, people, and things I've seen on the road. Ever since she was a little kid, she's been into my night trips that brought back memories. So, in the morning, I cooked her some breakfast. We ate and I talked to her about my trip. She smiled and reminisced about the good times. Then I said, Marianne, I love you, but please steer clear of this. She hugged me and reassured me, I'm not getting involved in this. I won't drag you into anything. It's all up to you. I made it clear that I wouldn't let you two meet. She nodded, hugged me back tightly, and shut down the conversation. I don't have anything that could link her to the crime scene, Chief. Actually, there's no evidence that anyone was even there. At the crime scene, there was no sign of forced entry, no fingerprints or footprints, and the blood spatter patterns were all consistent. If it wasn't for the identical notes, I would have closed both cases as suicides, Jordan told his boss. The excess alibi is airtight, the commander said, looking serious. Did you see Schindler's ex-wife? It seems like she's seeking revenge. She was caught on CCTV at the club with her new boyfriend while her kids were at school. 2 years later, Angela broke her usual routine and started dating Lance Forrest. She promised herself that she would not fall into the same pattern again. She wasn't gonna risk anyone's life by dating guys more than once after suicides, but she wasn't celibate. She stuck to one-night stands with pickup artists from the bar. But when she got an STD, she realized she needed to change her ways. After a month of dating Lance, she started feeling comfortable. Some might say she was getting careless with him. She stopped hiding their relationship and started dating him in public. Lance was watching a ball game at home when a gun was put to his head. So, the guy's head was blown off, they put the gun in his hand and left the same note again. Jordan said the bill has been settled in full. He answered his phone and it was Detective Stan Anson from Schaumburg. He asked if there was any case related to fully paid suicides. The detective mentioned Angela Johnson and asked if she was the guy's girlfriend. Jordan said no way, she was his ex. The detective asked about the ex-husband's alibi and Jordan confirmed it was solid, he was in Madison at the time. So, Anson said she was at home alone at that time. The security system covered for her last time, so we couldn't prove otherwise. Did the same thing happen this time? She ordered Chinese food from her home phone and it was delivered within 30 minutes. The shooting incident happened during that time frame, as told by a neighbor who called 911 from her house to the victim's apartment. It's a 23-minute drive each way and a 3-flight walk to the top. It's close, but we can't see how she could have done it. Yo, we totally nailed it within that time frame. I'm down, let's meet up tomorrow and go over the files. Cool, so all the leads were dead ends and no new suspects. The cases are still unsolved. So, Steve and Marianne were chilling in the Great Hall, watching Jenny strut across the stage to grab her bachelor's degree. Steve was beaming with pride, had to brush away a tear. Marianne squeezed his hand and gave it a kiss. After the ceremony, they headed out to the car and Marianne was like, "Hey, so, babe, you really care about her? Please give her a call." But she already made her decision when she chose her mom over me. She only realized she messed up when she saw how her mom treated me. I needed her support, I was right, but she didn't trust me. And now her mom has taken everything from me. Can you believe there are still some old friends who think I did something to Jenny and got away with it? Marianne shook her head. She made her choice and we all have to deal with it. He finished and Marianne frowned at him. Stubbornness grabbed him by the hand and asked, "Were you this stubborn before the divorce?" "Nah, not even close," he replied. 5 years later, Angela and Jenny were sitting in the front row of the funeral home's memorial room for Stan Johnson's wake and funeral procession. Steve had passed away from pancreatic cancer just 4 weeks after walking Jenny down the aisle at her wedding. He had made a few new friends and colleagues, but he never fully rebuilt his old network of friends after the divorce. Most of his old friends, neighbors, and colleagues showed up to pay their respects. So basically, they were paying their respects to a dude they used to know but lost touch with. His girlfriend Marianne was there too, even though they never tied the knot. She was trying really hard not to go off on Angela for causing her man pain. His buddy Lou DeMarco was telling Jenny all about her dad's final years, sharing stories that filled her heart with stuff she never would have known otherwise. It was Marianne who finally convinced him to talk to Jenny and make things right before he kicked the bucket. He spent years ignoring letters and deleting stuff after getting diagnosed with a terminal illness. Emails and ignoring calls. Their reunion was perfectly timed as he and Marianne knew these were his last months. Jenny actually rescheduled her wedding day, which cost her a fortune due to increased fees for urgent work, but she got her deepest wish. Her dad gave her to her husband. Their tearful reunion and walk down the aisle gave Steve one last peace of mind before he lost his final battle. The last words he spoke were his thanks to Marianne for returning Jenny to him, and his apology for never marrying her. She understood and never. They were sending emails and avoiding phone calls, but their reunion came at just the right time. He and Marianne knew these were his last months. Jenny ended up changing her wedding date, which ended up costing her a lot more money due to rush fees. But she got her ultimate wish, her dad giving her away to her husband. Their emotional reunion and walk down the aisle brought a smile to Steve's face before he lost his battle. His last words were thanking Marianne for bringing Jenny back to him and apologizing for never marrying her. She understood and forgave him. He was nudged into marriage because they were already happy. Marianne told Jenny how he always regretted not reaching out to her years ago. Her mom asked about it, and Jenny shared some of the moments of their reconciliation. She said, "He told me he was at my graduation, sitting in the back rows where no one would recognize him." "It's true," Marianne confirmed. "I was with him. He said he followed my career as I climbed the ranks and became a detective in Streamwood. He was so proud of you, he even kept clippings from the Herald. You were the youngest person ever to become a detective there. He loved it when they said you had a talent for solving crimes, and later when the newspaper called you a crime scene expert, he nearly cried." Marianne said he mentioned it was because of all that stuff you guys watched Columbo and other crime shows together when you were kids. He hoped that you would make it to Chicago or some other big city and have more important things to focus on. Jenny smiled throughout most of the wake, listening to stories about her dad's life after the divorce. "I was so glad to finally see Marianne. We still keep in touch every now and then. His new life seemed pretty good, and he passed away a happy man," she said. After the funeral, she said her final prayer and thanked God that he had finally found peace. Angela tried to catch up with Jenny during the wake and funeral, but she messed up everything at the lunch after the service by making a comment at the wrong time. They were alone after everyone had left when Angela said, "Jenny, I have finally found peace." Jenny replied, "What are you talking about, Mom? I haven't been able to." Jenny was in a relationship for a few years because she was scared her dad would murder them. She couldn't leave, even when he got off by the cops. "You piece of shit, but now you're glad he's gone so you can have a good time. I thought you changed, but now I hope you burn in hell." Angela winced. "You don't get it." Jenny cut her off and said, "The next time I see you, Mom, is at your funeral. Bye, Mom, good luck with your sex life. So, this was the last time she talked to her mom. 10 months later, Angela was out having dinner with her boyfriend Charlie Harron at some fancy steakhouse. Charlie got all serious and said, "Angela, these last 8 months have been amazing for me." He squeezed her hand and she replied, "For me too, Charlie. I wasn't sure if I'd ever love again, but we found each other." Then, Charlie goes, "Angela, I love you. Will you marry me?" Angela took a deep breath and said, "Yes, yes, I will marry you." In that moment, she thought, "He's the one. I have nothing to worry about." A week later, Charlie was chilling on his back porch, thinking about his wedding coming up and Angela moving in with him. He took a big puff from his Cuban Monte Cristo No. 2 cigar and blew out the smoke, feeling all happy and content. But then out of nowhere, someone put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. They stuck a pistol in his hand, put his cigar in an ashtray, and left a note under a heavy ashtray on the table. Angela ended the call with Detective Jordan, her face all tear-stained from their emotional talk. She went to the bathroom and grabbed some sleeping pills. Even though she hadn't needed them in a while, she always kept them on hand. Then she walked to her mailbox, put an envelope in it, and raised the flag so the mailman knew there was outgoing mail. She lay down on the bed and started thinking about her wedding to Steve and how amazing that day had been. She thought about Jenny and how proud she was of her career. She reminisced about family vacations and trips to the park. And then she felt regret for never meeting Martin Schindler and ruining her own life. Finally, she prayed to see Steve soon. She put the note on her chest and fell asleep for the last time. The note said, "My price has been paid in full." Jenny came home with mail and groceries, put everything away, hung up her keys, and kicked off her shoes. Her husband, Blake, wouldn't be home until almost midnight since he was working his second shift as a cop. She could finally enjoy the peace and quiet of the house. She opened a bottle of California Cabernet and poured herself a glass. She took a sip and walked over to the stack of mail. When she saw a letter from Angela Johnson, she freaked out. She ripped it open and read her mom's final message, then collapsed in a chair, crying. "Wow, Mom," she muttered to the empty house. She grabbed her phone and called Detective Jordan. "Hey, it's Jenny Stenger, Steve and Angela Johnson's daughter. Sorry to hear about your mom," he said. "Thanks, at least. You don't have to investigate, but what's up, Jenny? I got a letter from my mom in the mail. She's confessing to all the suicides that were actually murders. She's clearly lost it. I can't believe this. Jesus Christ. Come meet me at my place ASAP, I'm on my way." She took the first page, lit it on fire, put it in the fireplace, and made sure it was completely burned. The letter said, "My dear Jenny, I give you this last gift of my repentance. Whether you believe me or not, I love you with all my heart. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused you. It wasn't on purpose. Hurting you and your dad was the worst thing I've ever done. I knew it had to be you when Charlie died. I accept my punishment. I'm sorry I made you punish me like this. I hope you can move on now without the hurt of my betrayal. Tear up this page and give the cops page 2, it's my confession to them. I messed up big time and I accept all the blame. I know I can't make up for the years you lost without your dad or the pain he felt when he thought you betrayed him. So many people have died because of me, and it needs to end. Maybe this will help you move on from feeling guilty and finally forgive me so you can find peace. Please, tell our grandkids about the good times, not how I screwed everything up. I hope you and Blake have a great marriage and don't get taken advantage of by anyone. Hey, they are trying to pull you away from me. I love you so much, Mom. P.S. Please reach out to someone and get the help you really need." The note sounded tired and expensive, Jenny. By the time you read this, I'll already be gone. I took my own life. I can't handle the guilt anymore. I killed all those men, my lovers. They had to pay the price for taking me from your dad. I always belonged to him. Maybe now I can be with him again. May the Lord forgive me. I'll always love you and I'm sorry I messed up our life with Martin. Truly. So, like, Jenny, the mother of the perfect family, went up to Detective Jordan's desk and they said hi and stuff. She sat down in the chair he offered and then read this letter. And then he was like, "Oh damn Jenny, sorry for thinking you might be involved in this. I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, maybe she went crazy years ago when I cut her off for what she did to my dad. It's insane that she kept dating just to off them. Like, what the hell? I don't get it. But I guess it kinda makes sense that she was the one behind a couple of murders, since her alibi was sketchy. It's no big deal, we just couldn't find her at the crime scene, and honestly, we didn't have enough solid evidence. I always suspected it was either your dad or Schindler's ex-wife, but we couldn't prove their alibi wrong either. Well, I'm just glad it's all done now. The murderer is behind bars, her victims can finally rest in peace. Take care, detective. You too, Jenny, she said as she walked out of the police station with a huge smile on her face. She shook her head, stopped, opened the car door, looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Mom. I hope you find Dad wherever you are. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. Make sure your partner doesn't play you, and keep watching because this story ain't got nothing on the next one. And if you're not 18, don't even bother tuning into the next one."